Hey, how's it going, guys? So today I'm gonna be doing something a little different. Don't worry, I haven't went off the rails yet. Like I'm not gonna be reviewing pastries and cars and random stuff. No, still audio, but it's nothing you can buy like new review. I'm gonna actually be reviewing something you can only buy used. And it's actually I realized that nobody's made a video on it. So I asked the question, what was the first microphone ever made or could be used on a computer? And I ended up going down a rabbit hole and then learned quite a few things. So now I kind of got my bearings on it. So I'm ready to kind of review some of the microphones that it might be, could have been the first one. And we're going to get into some semantics here. So bear with me. So let's go ahead and get started and then review the actual microphones. All right, so I have here a handy dandy little whiteboard with some dates because I got to throw some dates at you before we actually cover all this. So let's first start off 1877. Why is this date so important? So that was when the first quarter inch TS cable or tip sleeve was made. So an unbalanced, basically instrument cable actually is also the same year that the first commercially microphone was made. It's actually an interesting story in and of itself because that is actually when the Bell Company, which is a telephone company, purchased both of them and was able to make phones and switchboards and was super crucial into making audio as it is today. So that was really the start of it. There was like some guy in Italy that made like a working dynamic microphone in like the 1850s, but we ignore him. 1877 technically is the first one. Then we move to 1950s. The mini TS cable or the 3.5 cable was invented. This is now to be known as the headphone jack. So before we all did away with it with our phones, everybody remembers the headphone jack with headphones. So this was invented in the 1950s, like Walkman, which is like a little tape deck thing. Those are really popular then. So that was super crucial in when we're starting to get into what actual microphone could have been used or the first one made. So now we go to 1971. So because we're talking about computers here, what a microphone made a computer. First computer was a like personal computer for a home was made in 1971. We don't really care about this too much because back then they weren't really able to be like access to the internet. So it was kind of like a weird thing. You could do stuff on it, but it wasn't internet available. So that was just when the first personal computer was made. But then important dates, 1985, Windows 1.0 was made. This is important because this is Windows as we know it now. So that's super important. So then next one. Now this is the very most important date to me. So 1990/1991 was the release of the Macintosh. In particularly, the Macintosh Classic 2 was made in 1991. And they also made a microphone in 1991. They had both two different ones for a headphone and one for a audio. As far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time somebody actually put a microphone and headphone jack on there. And doing my research, you could actually access the internet using one of these classic Macintoshes. And that leads me to the last date. The World Wide Web, or WWW, as we like to know it, went into public domain, so everybody was able to use it in 1993. So the reason why that is important is because now theoretically you could have uploaded audio in 1993. So all those dates in mind, do we actually have a microphone that was made? We do in 1991. Let me introduce to you the microphone, which is all is named by Apple. Made in Japan in 1991. This is I believe, a small capsule condenser microphone because testing it, it did require 48 volts of power when running it through the audio interface and requiring it. So it came with this little adhesive clip, which still has not been done. And yeah, you can see here, it is Yeah, that's it. It's gonna be a TRS, so stereo input. That's tip ring sleeve. Those are what those two are. And yeah, this would have been what I believe the first ever microphone made for a computer strictly. So how does it sound? Well, let's test it out. Okay, so here is the microphone. So as you can see, I have it plugged directly into my computer how it was supposed to be used for if you're going to be using it back in the day. Does it sound good? I don't know. I don't have direct monitoring on it because I cannot hear it. So yeah, it has almost zero information on what the frequency response of it. And I believe it's an omnidirectional microphone, but I could even be wrong on that. There's really no information about this microphone. I'm assuming it sounds bad. Like the owner of JHS Pedals, he's a pretty cool guy. He has a lot of YouTube videos. He always quotes that the first ever product or new thing, like a first ever reverb pedal, the first ever distortion pedal, always sounds terrible. It's always the second one that sounds better. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump back to the regular microphone so I can talk a little bit more about this one without being sounding too terrible. Okay, back on the regular microphone that actually probably sounds decent. So, yeah, this one, like I said, it's made in Japan. It was the first venture into what microphones sound like. I haven't reviewed what it sounds like yet. I just kind of jump back onto it. So the one other thing that I want to show you and illustrate a little bit is, was there a microphone? So now here's where again getting into some semantics. Now that kind of broke down what I mean by the first microphone or first computer microphone, which is where you could actually upload it to the internet. We established 1993 would have been the soonest technically for the normal person, and it would have been done. I could have had the gear by 1991. But could you have had a microphone before this one or at this one or an older one that could have been used on the Macintosh Classic 2? You actually could have. There's an older microphone that actually has a headphone jack cable plugged into it, be it unbalanced, but it does have one. And it's significantly older. And that is the Sony F-96 dynamic mic. This here is made in I believe, don't quote me because I tried looking it up. Like some people say mid 60s, some people say early 70s, somewhere around that era. I've messaged Sony, so Sony, if you're watching this, I tried to contact you to ask you when this one was made, but got nothing. So this is a case it comes in. Here's the microphone. It's super vintage looking. It almost looks like one of those old school curling irons. Like, have you ever seen it? 'Cause it even got the wiring weird like that. So this is an unbalanced cable. So it's a mini TS. So it's a unbalanced TS cable, which I've actually never seen one of these before. Like, because most people have balanced ones in stereo. So this would be a mono output that's unbalanced. So again, I'm going to plug this directly into my computer. It's going to sound probably bad. Just anything plugged in the computer in general doesn't sound very good because your sound card on your computer, even high end, like my computer is pretty good, but they just really skimp on computer sound cards. Processing the audio is fine, but processing in audio going in kind of sucks. So let's go ahead and put this. I actually had to Google if this was going to break my headphone input or my microphone input because it's unbalanced. And don't worry, Google says it's okay. So I'm trusting Google on this one. It's not going to break my headphone input. So we'll see how this sounds. And then what I'll go ahead and do after that is I will run both the microphones through my audio interface. And I'll be using the Rode VXLR Plus. So this is able to be used. It's a 3.5 millimeter to XLR, and it is able to use 48 volts, which is what you'd need to power the microphone by Apple. So let's go ahead and plug this in, see how it sounds on the computer, and then let's see how they sound on a audio interface that has a little bit nicer processing. Okay, so here is the microphone. So I probably have to boost the levels in post because this is pretty quiet. I have to be careful talking into it because the capsule's like right there, and I don't want to like get any plosives because I'm sure it probably has some pretty bad plosives. So this is how it sounds. I have to talk pretty loud, like I said, because it's not really driving very well. But yeah, this is how it sounds. It would be back in the day with the audio processing. I'm sure the audio card is even worse than mine now. So let's go ahead and plug it into the Focusrite 4i4 using the Rode VXLR Plus, and then see how that sounds. And then let's see how the first ever computer microphone made would sound like. So these are two pretty much of the microphones you could have used back in the day to upload one of the first audio tracks or first audio. All right, so here we go with the microphones. I had to have the gain all the way up because, like I said, this thing is not very great driving. So I turned it from an unbalanced to balanced, but as you can hear, there's still a lot of static noise. And that's because this is an unbalanced cable, so it's going to have some noise. And yeah, it doesn't sound that great. It doesn't sound the worst. The handling noise is pretty bad. But like I said, this is, pretty old microphone. This was originally made for a tape track for you to put it in to actually record something from a tape track. So it's the original thing. But like a lot of microphones, like my XLR and my other microphones I have, you can use them on computer. So somebody that was a little bit had a little bit of ingenuity could have used this and plugged it into the Macintosh, and they could figure out how to boost the volume. They could theoretically have used this on the Apple Macintosh Classic 2. So yeah, this is what it sounds like. Probably it's not the best as far as I sound. There's a lot of honkiness in it. Just not my favorite. It doesn't sound too bad. We'll see how it gets up close. So like with most microphones, when you get up close, it sounds a little bit better. I got to talk a lot quiet so I don't clip it. But yeah, that's pretty much the microphone. Let's go ahead and see how the Apple one sounds. So I believe I have to kick on the 48 volts of power because I believe it's a condenser with its small little capsule. So both these are made in Japan, and I believe this one has a frequency response of 20 to 20 kilohertz, but again, don't quote me on that. It's a little bit sketchy to find some of the frequencies and different SPL levels for this older one. Sure, if I looked a little more, I could, but I've already invested quite a bit of time into venturing what the first ever microphone could have been made on the computer, or made or used to be on the computer. So let's go ahead and see how the Apple microphone sounds. Okay, so this microphone sounds horrible. I hear like spaceships, and okay, see, like I said, again, this is the first ever computer microphone, and it's making weird spaceship noises, and I feel like I sound like I'm like a airplane pilot. It's clipping and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So yeah, I don't think it was meant to be used like this. It's definitely let me try to. Yeah, it's all bad. So I have to like hold it here so I don't clip it with plosives. Super noisy, super terrible sounding, but this would have been the first ever computer that was made for the microphone. So does it sound great? Absolutely not. But this is the first venture into what a microphone sounds like. All right, that's super distracting. I'm gonna go ahead and switch back over to my others and like finish up this video. All right, so what can we say about the Apple microphone for the computer and the Sony dynamic microphone, the F-96? Well, we can say that this was like the first venture really into microphones as we know it. This would have been, I believe, one of the first ones you could have used that was an instrument or not computer microphone that you could have actually used on a computer. So that's what I mean by semantics. This, I believe, was the legitimate first microphone you could have used that was made for a computer on a computer. This sounds terrible. This I would not use. But it's an important piece of history because it's cool to see where we came from, to see now where we're at now with all the audio equipment and stuff. So, yeah, I thought it was an interesting video. No one's ever done it, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because you had to get into like I said, some semantics. And these aren't that great. They're not good microphones. That's why they're so cheap. I think this was like 20 bucks. That was like 10 bucks. So really affordable, really easy, and to get if you guys really want these. If you're dying to get these piece of history, you can buy them pretty cheap on or on eBay. If not, you can just be content with watching this video. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, or maybe something was inaccurate that I said, feel free to leave me a comment. And yeah, hope you learned something. Enjoy the video. Thanks, guys.